Hey friend, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you a simple way for mixing acoustic guitar to get an amazing sound. Let me start by playing you the acoustic guitar inside the finished mix here, and then we'll solo it up and break down all of the processing we're using to get this sound. So here's our guitar inside the finished mix. So you can hear our acoustic guitar is nice and jangly. It's got some nice brightness on the side, so it's cutting through, and it feels competitive here inside this track, along with the electric guitars, the piano, the big background vocals. It has enough energy that it feels competitive, and it still feels integral to this mix's sound. Let me play you the raw acoustic guitar sound here, and I'll toggle the processing on and off. You can hear our before and after on the acoustic guitar. So you can hear we're taking out a huge part of the sound here that isn't important to this track's sound. It has a lot of bass energy coming through on the acoustic guitar that we don't need inside this mix. And additionally, we need to make room for things that do have that bass energy. So our bass guitar, our kick drum, even the bottom end on our snare drum, and the piano. All of those things have more important bottom end that are actually contributing energy to this track. Whereas on the acoustic guitar, we want to hear that top end, we want to hear that brightness, and we want to hear that string sound, not the boominess coming out of the hole on the acoustic guitar. So let's break down our processing here, and let me show you how we're getting this sound. The first piece of the puzzle for me when mixing acoustic guitar is always pulling in a high-pass filter. I want to roll off anything that we don't need in the bottom end, any excess low end that's just taking up space and eating up headroom here. So you can see I'm rolling up the high-pass all the way to 226 hertz here. We're using a 12 dB per octave slope. Take a listen to how this changes the sound of our acoustic. So without the high-pass and then with it. Just that one move makes our acoustic guitar sound miles better instantly. There's a whole bunch of energy down here below 200 hertz that we don't need, and it's not a part of the heart of this sound. The heart of this acoustic guitar sound is from about 220 up here. It's that mid-range, it's that jangly high mids, and the pretty top end, that string sound on the acoustic guitar. Everything below here is not contributing to this mix's sound. And you can see that's where the bulk of the energy is before we put in this high-pass filter. So using that to clean up the bottom end. The next thing I like to do is get rid of any ringing frequencies, and you'll always have some kind of frequency that's popping out on an acoustic guitar, whether it's a ringing frequency or a harsh frequency. It's just an artifact of recording or miking up an acoustic guitar in a room. It's always going to ring a little bit differently. And there's one here. I think I hear another one as well, so we'll go hunting as well. The first one is at 796 hertz, and you can see I have the notch all the way up here, 24, so it's going to be as narrow as possible. We just want to pull out the frequency that's ringing and not harm the rest of the acoustic guitar. So I'll hit play, see if you can hear it, and then I'll push this notch in, and I'll push it up and down. You can hear what I'm talking about. So that's our first one. I think I hear one more just a little bit higher above it. Let me see if I can find that quickly. So right there, we're at 1.05K. There's another frequency ringing out. I'm just going to notch that out really quickly. You can hear how much cleaner our acoustic guitar sounds. Any frequencies that are ringing out like that, you want to take care of those because they can be distracting, and depending on what system you're listening on, they can be really, really loud or they can be not noticeable at all. So you want to make sure you check on a couple different systems, find any frequencies that are ringing out like that, and get rid of them so they aren't distracting to the listener. Now there's 2 boosts up here on the EQ, but I don't like to put those in until I get compression going on the acoustic guitar. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to throw in this 1176 style compressor here on the acoustic. I'm running this at about 0.55 milliseconds on the attack, so medium slow for this unit, but still very, very fast in general. And then 50 millisecond release, so the fastest release for this unit. We want to make sure we grab any peaks on the acoustic guitar and then let go as fast as possible so the rest of the guitar can come up in volume to match those peaks. 4-to-1 ratio here. I'm just pushing the input up till we're getting 3, maybe 5 dB reduction on these bigger peaks here. So take a listen without and then with the compressor. So it's doing a couple things for us here. Number one, it's evening out the volume of the acoustic guitar and making sure we hear the rest of the strum and not just that initial transient, not just the initial pick sound hitting the strings. It brings everything up and evens out our volume on the acoustic guitar. But because it's an 1176, it's a more vintage style plugin, we also get a little bit of character and a little bit of grit from it. I love using this on acoustic guitar because I feel like it brings out the strum a little bit more and it makes it feel like he's hitting the acoustic guitar harder, which comes through better and helps the acoustic guitar cut inside the mix. You don't have to use an 1176, but when you use something like this that's a bit more aggressive, it helps the acoustic guitar feel a bit more aggressive inside the track. So that's our compressor, just doing about 3, maybe 5 dB of reduction there. Helps it sit inside the track. Now I'm going to come back here and I'm going to boost top end. The first frequency I like to boost on the top end is up at 8K, and this is going to give us that nice air on the acoustic guitar. So we're doing 2.5 dB at 8K. Take a listen here. It's not a lot, but it just gives us a little bit of air on the top end and emphasizes that nice breath that you get coming off the acoustic guitar. The next frequency we're going to boost here up on the top end, we're kind of more in the high mids here, is at about 2K, 2.1K. We're doing about a 3, almost 4 dB boost here, and you can see I've widened the Q a little bit because I want to bring up all of this high mid energy here and kind of even out the sound of the acoustic. We've got top end, and you saw we had a whole bunch of bottom end that we kind of trimmed back. I want to make sure there's mid range as well, so our acoustic guitar feels full range, because an acoustic guitar is a very full range instrument. I don't want it to feel scoop sounding when we stick it inside the track. So about 4 dB at 2K. To me, this is the frequency boost that makes the biggest difference. It's nice to have that air on the top end, but if you don't have that mid-range and the high mids on your acoustic guitar, it's going to get lost underneath everything else, especially in a track like this where we have piano, electric guitars, and then a big stack of backgrounds. If we don't have enough mid-range on our acoustic guitar, it's going to get lost and buried under everything else. All right, we've got our boosts in now. Now we want to make sure that nothing pokes out and harms our listeners' ears. Acoustic guitars can get brittle and they can get pokey on the top end. So I like to throw a multi-band at the end of my chain here and just kind of gently clamp down on the top end here. So we're only looking at 4K and above here, and I'll solo that for you so you can hear the frequency range we're honing in on. 20-to-1 ratio, fastest attack, fastest release, and this is just going to gently grab anything that gets too much in the top end and make sure it doesn't get brittle or pokey for our listener here. So take a listen here without it and then with. So you can see I'm just parking the threshold here, so it's pretty much even with the rest of the frequency range on the acoustic, and I'm not letting any of those bigger peaks come out on the top end and get harsh for our ears there. So that's our multi-band there, just making sure everything is pleasing for our listener. And then after all of that, I felt like I needed just a touch more mid-range here to balance it out with the keyboards and the electric guitar, so I'm adding 1 more dB at about 1.5K here, 1.42K. And this is just a little bit of lift so it feels competitive against our electrics and against our piano. So take a listen without that, and I'll throw that in. There was one more frequency that was bothering me there up at 4K, so I just pulled that out. You can see after we even out the top end there and nothing's kind of jumping out, you'll hear any frequencies that are ringing that aren't in tune with the guitar. If you have any ringing frequencies, but they're in key with the guitar, sometimes you don't need to cut them out because they're going to ring sympathetically. If you have anything that's ringing that's kind of out of key or that's harsh, that can feel pokey, you want to get rid of that very, very quickly so you can focus on the rest of the acoustic guitar. We've got everything in here. Let me ABR processing one more time, and I'll throw it in with the rest of the track here as well. Our simple steps for mixing acoustic guitar here. First things first, we want to get rid of any frequencies that we don't need. That means ringing frequencies, anything in the bottom end that we don't need. Then I like to get my compressor in. I like using this 1176, just 3 to 5 dB reduction on those bigger peaks to even out our volume. Then I come back, I like to boost the top end into the compressor, adding that air up on the top end, adding that mid-range so the guitar feels full. This is our little bit of protection here, pulling in our multi-band to make sure our top end doesn't get harsh or pokey for the listener. And then any final tweaks at the end, one more ringing frequency, and a little bit of mid-range to make sure it sits with our piano and our electric guitars. I hope that was helpful for you. If you're looking to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process and really start to dial in your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF guide that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the guesswork and without any more of the hassle. Like I said, it's completely free to download, and you can get access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.